Before we start, let me ask you a few questions. How many bones does human body have? What exactly are pneumatic bones? What is metaphysis of a bone? Limb buds appear at which week? And what is in and out mechanism? Do you know the answers of these questions? No? So don't worry. I will explain you all the important topics in upper limb anatomy. Hello students, welcome to our channel. So today we are going to discuss introduction to upper limb, classification of bones, and development of pectoral girdle. So let us discuss our first topic, introduction to upper limb. We all know that the human skeleton consists of 206 bones, in which 35 are unpaired bones, remaining 85 are paired bones. Do you know that the mass of living skeleton is 11% of total body weight? The skeleton is divided into two major parts. One is axial skeleton and the other one is appendicular skeleton. Now let us discuss each of them in detail. First, let us discuss about axial skeleton. The axial skeleton is a part of skeleton which consists of bones of head, trunk and vertebra. It is the central or main axis of human skeleton. Don't worry what is HS, it is human skeleton. The axial skeleton itself made up of 80 bones. Once again, it consists of skull, sternum, ribs and vertebral column. Now let us discuss the functions of axial skeleton. The first and main function is it supports The upright position or the upright posture of human body. And the next one is it helps in protecting of internal organs. Example, ribs helps us to protect the lungs. Now let us going to discuss about the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton is made up of bones of appendages, that is bones of upper limb and bones of lower limb. These appendages are connected to axial skeleton. This appendicular skeleton is made up of 126 bones. It consists of both pelvic and pectoral girdle. Pelvic girdle means lower limb and pectoral girdle means upper limb. The main functions of the appendicular skeleton are it helps in movement of the body, that is locomotion, and it helps in protection. Next topic is bones of upper limb. There are total of 32 bones of upper limb. Those are scapula, clavicle, humerus, radius, ulna, and 8 carpal bones, 5 metacarpal bones, and 14 phalanges. Now let us go to our next topic, classification of bones. Now let us come to our new topic, classification of bones. All bones of human body are classified into 5 types. Those are long bones, short bones, flat bones, irregular bones, pneumatic bones. These bones of human body are classified into 5 types based on 4 main principles. These are shape, structure, development and function. Now let us discuss each one in detail. First, long bones. It is also called as tubular bones, because these are tubular in shape. These are mainly seen in limbs, and the diaphyses of these bones are cylindrical or trihedral shape. The epiphysis is thickened endings of the long bones. Thickened endings of long bones. And the epiphysis contains the articular surfaces for the attachment of neighboring bones, bone to bone. The place in between the epiphysis and diaphysis is called as metaphysis. The metaphysis is the region where the bones grow in their length. Now let us discuss our next type of bone. It is short or spongy bone. These are the dense compact bones consist of trabeculae. So these are also called as trabeculae bones. These bones helps to support the movement of joints and limbs. Example, sesamoid bones, carpal and tarsal bones. Now let us go to flat bones. These forms the cavity walls or the walls of the cavity, which helps in protecting the organs. Example, ribs, which protects the internal organs, lungs. The other such examples are skull, pelvis, sternum and ribs. These bones have the surfaces for the attachment of muscles. Now next comes the irregular bones. These are the bones with complex structures. The very example is vertebra, vertebral column. The next comes pneumatic bones. These are the bones with contains air sacs or air cavities. These are lined with mucosa, and these acts as voice resonators. And presence of these bones helps in decrease the mass of the head or the weight of the head. Example: frontal, sphenoid, ethmoid, temporal. These all are present in skull. These are mainly seen in birds. Now we are going to discuss our next topic: development of pectoral girdle. The pectoral girdle develops at an interface between tissues forming head and neck. Pectoral girdle develops at an interface between tissues forming head and neck. Now coming the main point, the upper limb birds appears at 4th week. It is the main point. The early limb development is done by somatopleuric mesenchyme. Somatopleuric mesenchyme helps in the early limb development. Now comes in the scapula. In the scapular region, the lateral scapular structures, are also derived from somatopleuric mesenchyme. Now, the medial border of scapula S for scapula. The medial border of scapula and the attachment site for rhomboid muscles, both the rhomboid major and the rhomboid minor muscles are originate from dermatomes of dermomyotomes of somites, particularly hypoxial domain. The connective tissues of the muscles and their attachment sites on pectoral girdle are innervated by accessory nerve. And derived from neural crest. Neural crest. That is, the muscles of the pectoral girdle are innervated by the accessory nerve, which are derived from the neural crest. The myoblasts of the upper limb. The upper limb myoblasts, those migrates laterally from ventrolateral border of cervical dermomyotomes. From ventrolateral border of cervical dermomyotomes. Some of the myoblasts which migrate medially we discussed that if the myoblast migrates laterally from the ventrolateral border of cervical dermatomes. Now we are discussing about what if the myoblast migrates medially. Migrates medially out of the limb bud into axial mesenchyme. They migrate out of the limb bud into the axial mesenchyme to form pectoral muscles ventrally Pectoral muscles are of two, pectoral major and pectoral minor. Pectoral muscles ventrally and latissimus. Latissimus dorsi, dorsal. This origin of superficial pectoral muscles. The pectoral muscles are of superficial. This origin of pectoral muscles and the latissimus dorsi has been described as in and out mechanism. That is, the upper limb myoblast migrates laterally from ventrolateral border of cervical dermomyotomes. A part of myoblasts migrate medially out of the limb bud to the axial mesenchyme to form the pectoral major muscle and pectoral minor muscles ventrally and latissimus dorsi muscles dorsally. This whole part is described as the in and out mechanism. Now the important point comes. The somatopleuric mesenchyme remains within the proximal limb and produces glenohumeral joint and coracoid process. The somatopluric mesenchyme remains within the proximal limb, that is upper limb, which produces the glenohumeral joint between the glenoid cavity and the humerus, glenoid cavity of scapula and the humerus, and coracoid process of scapula. Now, mainly the humerus and all bones of upper limb are formed from lateral plate mesoderm. Mainly the humerus and all bones are formed from the lateral plate mesoderm. Some of the muscles like biceps brachii, is derived from paraaxial mesoderm. Mainly the paraaxial mesoderm of somites. And all the skeletal muscles of the upper limb. Are also derived from paraaxial mesoderm. Derived from somites. All the paraaxial mesoderms are derived from somites. So, what are the structures? What are the muscles which came from the paraaxial mesoderm? Those are biceps brachii and all skeletal muscles of upper limb. What are the structures which came out of somatopluric mesenchyme in proximal limb, that is upper limb? That is glenohumeral joint and coracoid process. Glenoid cavity of scapula and humerus and coracoid process of scapula. Now, I think you had a small doubt. What is that? Sir, you told us about some of the muscles, then what about the other muscles? Let us discuss now about some other muscles. Serratus anterior, rhomboid, and some deep pectoral muscles. The serratus anterior, rhomboid and deep pectoral muscles, which are derived from hypaxial domain myoblasts, how? The hypaxial domain myoblast forms some of the muscles like serratus anterior, rhomboid muscles, that is rhomboid major, rhomboid minor, and deep pectoral muscles. Now the other muscles like trapezius, sternocleidomastoid, these are innervated by the accessory nerve, which are derived from the neural crest. Mesenchyme. The trapezius sternocleidomastoid are innervated by the accessory nerve and are derived from upper occipital somites. Those are actually derived from upper occipital somites and migrate into neural crest mesenchyme. The migration takes place from the upper occipital somites to the neural crest mesenchyme. So, where they are derived from? They derived from the upper occipital somites and they are migrated to neural crest mesenchyme. Now, let us take a look at the order of stages of development. Do you remember the point in which week the limb buds appear? The limb buds appear at 4th week. Now, starting from the stage 12, in the stage 12, the upper limb buds appear. That means stage 12 takes place in the 4th week. From the somites 8 to 10. In this stage, the upper limb bud first visible as a thickening. Along lateral longitudinal axis. Of the body wall opposite somites 8 to 10. That is, the upper limb bud first visible as thickening along lateral longitudinal axis of body wall opposite somites 8 to 10. Next comes the stage 13. In the stage 13, upper limb bud is curved ventrally. In the stage 13, the upper limb bud is curved ventrally. Next comes the stage 14. In the stage 14, the elongation of preaxial part of bud takes place. Elongation of preaxial part of bud. Next comes the stage 15. The upper limb can be subdivided into proximal and distal portions, where dorsal bulge and ventral curve are seen in proximal region and forearm and hand plate are seen in distal region. So what are seen in proximal region? Proximal region, dorsal bulge and ventral curve. And what are seen in distal region? Distal region, it is somewhat identified as forearm. Identified as forearm because the hand plate is formed. Is identified because of the hand plate. Now comes the next stage, stage 16. In the stage 16, first identification of digit trace. Identification of digit trace takes place in stage 16, and here there is a main point. The limb, the upper limb, it is closed and abducted. The limb first abducted in the stage 16. Now comes to stage 17. In the stage 17, the upper limb has the elbow region and a well-defined digit trace. It has elbow region and well-defined digit trace. The elbow region and well-defined digit trace are seen in which stage? Stage 17. And there is a main thing over here also. The starting of tissue removal between the digit takes place. Up to stage 16, the limb bud will be like this, only with some blood vessels and all. After the stage 17, the tissue removal takes place between these regions. The hand development takes place after the stage 17. Now comes to stage 18. In the stage 18, the removal of tissue between digits continues. Now come to stage 19 to 23. The growth of the limb. The growth of the limb takes place and fully separated especially in the stage 21, the distal phalangeal portion of fingers becomes enlarged. The elongation of the phalangeal portion of the fingers takes place in which stage? In the stage 21. In the stage 19 to 23, the growth of the limb takes place and fully separated digits are seen in 19 to 23. And the nail beds first forms in the stage 19. These are about the stages. Now let us talk about the arterial supply of upper limb. Arteries to the upper limb. The arterial supply takes place at the stage 13, where there will be only one artery, that is primary axial artery. In starting of appearance of the limb bud at stage 12 and at stage 13, the primary axial artery gives rise and supplied the blood to the limb. And next at the stage 16, the axillary, brachial, ulnar, median, intraosseous arteries are present. The axillary artery, which becomes the brachial artery and continues as the intraosseous artery, and the interosseous artery itself gives rise to the two branches, those are ulnar and medial arteries. So what are the arteries which present in the stage 16 or after the stage 16? Axillary artery, brachial artery, ulnar artery, median artery and interosseous artery. And now comes to the stage 18. In the stage 18, the new artery arises. The median artery from intraosseous. Here the starting of the median artery takes place, and in the stage 18 the complete formation of the median artery takes place. After the stage 18, the fully developed arterial system of upper limb will be formed. Now come to the veins. There are two main veins during the development. Those are preaxial and postaxial veins. Let us talk those in detail, starting with preaxial. It is also called as cephalic vein. After development, The preaxial vein becomes the cephalic vein and drains into the axillary veins. Drains into axillary veins. The preaxial vein, which is also called as the cephalic veins, which drains the blood and which is transported into the axillary veins. Now comes to the postaxial veins. It is also called as basilic vein. Which passes deep in arm to continue as axillary artery. Axillary vein. So, which vein continues as the axillary vein? The basilic vein continues as the axillary vein. Basilic vein in the developmental stages, the postaxial vein. The postaxial vein, that is the postaxial vein, which is continued as the axillary vein. The postaxial vein becomes the basilic vein, which passes deep in the arm to continue as axillary vein. I hope you guys understood all the video, all the topics of the today's class. If you guys like the video, please give a thumbs up and share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe the channel for the next coming lessons and next coming topics. Thank you.